Good morning, traders. Today is Wednesday, September 15th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. The Pirate Traders live stream. Okay. So quite a morning I've had over here. For those of you that use Window Trader for your market profile software, you may have run into some problems this morning. There's some glitches happening with the data feeds from bar charts. So I went in and started a free trial for IQ so that I could get us up and running here. But the unfortunate thing is with the free trial, you only get like a couple of days worth of data. So I don't have further back data on the profile today, but that's okay. So, all right, well, what are we looking at? What's the market doing here? Well, let's just take a second and let's step back and look at the daily charts. Okay, so on the daily chart, clearly we have this channel that we've been in for a while. And every time we fail to break out on the upper end of the channel, we trade back down to the bottom end, which has, so you got two different sort of levels to look at here. This thin white line that's going straight up and down, okay, that is a trend line. And then you've got the white line that's kind of curvy that's running across here. That is a 50 simple moving average, okay? So you can see the last time when the 50 moving average broke, the next day we traded to lower prices, but then pulled back above it and continued higher from there. And then the time after that, when the 20 broke, we found support just below the 50 once again on that trend line. And then the last time it broke the 20 again, we didn't even quite make it to the 50, found support at the trend line. So these two lines are kind of like interchangeable at this point. They're both, potential support. Okay, so we can see what happened yesterday was the market traded almost exactly down to that 50 moving average and found support there and then tried to push higher. But in the overnight, it just rotated inside that range. So that leaves us in kind of an interesting place on the daily this morning where we're either going to do this again, where we're going to push lower, or we're going to find support and start to trade higher here. But then there's also this trend line could technically start to act as resistance. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. Let me just pull up the drawing tool here. So on the market profile, we can see that the overnight traded completely inside of yesterday's range, essentially inside the area where we did some rotating at the end of the day yesterday. And so we're going to open inside the value area, and we're going to open inside the previous day's range. And so what does that tell us? We've seen this movie before. That tells us that we have a high probability of chop early this morning. The market is likely to grind around. Important levels to keep an eye on is going to be the repair of the week J period high. So if the market trades up to here, gets above that level, and then finds resistance, for example, at the overnight high, finds resistance, can't get any higher, and starts to trade back down, that is bearish, right? Or neutral for rotation, one way or the other. Okay. And then to the downside, I would kind of use this node of volume just below the closing price the same exact way. So if we're chopping around in here, it does not interest me at all. It's when we get above or below these levels that I'll start to be able to get a better sign of what's happening with the market. So if we get below this node of volume from yesterday, just below the close, again, find support and start to trade back up, that would be bullish to neutral, meaning either further upside continuation or rotation. But if this level breaks right here, I'd start to get more bearish. And then in particular, if yesterday's low breaks, I would get a lot more bearish. But again, I just want to emphasize that's bearish just on the short term, just on the intraday today, because a lot of times you can see it here. You can see it here. You can see it here. A lot of times when that 50 breaks, the next day it trades below, but then pulls up above. Okay, so to me, the market isn't really bearish unless we spend more than one day below that 50 moving average. Okay. So Charles, just give it to us simple. Don't make it so complicated. Talking about all this stuff. Is the market going to go up or is the market going to go down? Well, I think the market's going to go up. I think we probably made a good low yesterday, and the market's going to bounce around in this range early today, and then eventually it'll start trading higher, and then we'll get those momentum buyers that will jump in. They'll regret being scared yesterday and buying these lows. They'll feel like they missed that, and then they'll start to pile on and push the market higher. Or we rotate around. Like I said, maybe we test some lower prices, but then we pull back up here into yesterday's range. I'm not really going to get overly bearish on this market, like I said, unless we spend all day today below that 50 moving average. Okay? And we're opening above it. So this is what I was trying to point out early this morning. So this line here could act as resistance on the way up, but this one here should act as support. So bouncing around in here is kind of uncertainty, but getting back above is bullish, below bearish. And the market chops. Chop, chop, chop. Good morning to you, Rad. Mangala, good morning to you. Arcaleon, good to see you. Good morning. Okay, internals opening a little bit bearish to neutral, as to be expected with the rotation that happened in the overnight market. Okay, so we're getting down into this first node of volume here. So we're looking for support. Can the market find support here and start its chop back up? That would be the first indication of neutral to bullish. If it continues to trade lower, it starts to get more and more bearish, particularly if it gets below the low from yesterday. Harry, good morning to you. Welcome. Good to see you. Amir is back with us. Good morning. Jason is here. Happy to be back, brother. Thank you. Ronald is here. Mangala says she thinks the market's going to move higher. Or he, sorry. Don't know. Yeah, like I said, that's what I think. I think we find support on that 50 and we turn around and start heading up. I just don't know that it's going to happen immediately. We might have to trade lower. We might have to test some lower prices. But within the day, we should rotate back up if that's what's going to happen. Design Knob, good morning to you. Donkey's back with us. Good to see you. Saw you at jury duty yesterday. Did you get out of that? Shouldn't be that hard. You're a smart guy. Just figure out what the case is about. If it's about drugs, just be like, I love drugs. I think drugs should be legal. Whatever. Mangala market is bullish until it crashes eventually. Yeah, I mean, but there's also such thing as healthy corrections, right? Where it just needs to pull back to give buyers an opportunity to get in at better prices without that necessarily meaning it's going to crash. That's what you commonly find at that 50 daily. Right? The reason that the market bounces off of this exact level over and over and over again, bounced, did a little testing below, repaired, below, repaired, bounced. The reason it does that is because that's just a healthy correction. It's just the market getting a little bit too long and needing to pull back. Ricky Bobby, good morning to you. We haven't reached the 50 on the SPX. Yeah, that's a great observation. Another thing that I was thinking about this morning that's kind of an interesting question to ask myself is this contract that I'm looking at here is the continuous contract where they take all the ES contracts and they combine them. But if you look at just the one for December, we didn't quite get down to it on there. And then, like you say, the SPX didn't quite get down to it there as well. That gap's been filled. So yeah, might still need to get down there and test the 50 on those ones. Let's see where the SPY is at. Yeah, a long way from the 50 on the SPY. That's why you can't be too exacting with your trading. So on this contract, 44.17 is about where that support is for the 50. Okay, so we pushed through this node, and then it acted as resistance when we tried to get back above. So that's a sign that the market needs to pull back further. Next support is going to be this node just above the low, and then the low itself from yesterday. If those fail, you're looking at further downside continuation. Man, Kala, I'm a guy. Thank you for the clarifications. You're here as well. Is your name Alexander? I always feel bad because I see you leave comments, but like the name that pops up in YouTube is in a different language, so I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. Is Alexander your name? I'll try to remember that for next time. Donkey got out of it. Well played. Oh, it's a chemo case. Where's the NQ resistance? Okay. Yeah, NQ, interestingly enough, kind of made higher lows yesterday, but I would call that actually poor, probably. Nope, it was good. Good low yesterday, made in the M period. So your resistance is going to be obviously this node where it pushed below and then it created resistance right around 15,384. But it does look like the NQ wants to sell off further down. They both do. So the panic, the fear, it's not over yet. There's still some weak-handed longs that need to get squeezed. And there's still some shorts that want to pile on here. Trading Talk, you can't really judge a 50 MA on the Z contract as it hasn't had any volume. Yeah, that's fair. That's why I was looking at the continuous, but it looks like the 50 on the Z kind of lines up with the 50 on the SPX. Alpha Trader, good morning to you. Welcome. Mark Charles, what release version of Window Trader is showing on your title bar? Window Trader 3.3.0.10. I think Window Trader forces you to always update to the latest version. Philip, good morning to you. Trading Donkey. Yeah, backing out of your civil duty, your duty to justice. Some poor person was poisoned with chemo and you don't want to support them. It is an interesting conceptual idea to ask ourselves, like, who does make up juries? Like, since it is relatively easy to get out of jury duty by just saying the right thing, and anybody who's like smart and hardworking and busy is going to do that because they just have other things. What are the type of people who want to sit through jury duty? I wonder if there's any bias built into that. Mediterra thinking we should see 4,400. That would be a pretty intense pullback, I think. 4,400. It's a nice round number, but see, to me, that's where I would start to get really nervous. If the market, traded below the 50 and then got all the way down to 4,400, that could be the scenario where it keeps going. So I would have to be a little more bearish before I would assume we're going to get to there. Could happen, though. I mean, we had some pretty big pullbacks right there and right there. Harry, what's the next ES support? Well, as we said, this node right here, which was sort of the last support from yesterday, is currently acting as support. Then you got yesterday's low. So that would mean like they just get a few ticks below it and then pull back in. Sort of a look below and fail of yesterday's range. Otherwise, you're looking at, further downside continuation. So, Charles, I know you're saying further downside continuation. My question is, where do I put in my orders? Where is support? Well, that's where, I'd want to wait and watch how the market moves. I wouldn't want to throw in limit orders somewhere and just have the market go fill it. Just the way I trade. I'd want to see, oh, look, it just found support. Oh, look, that support held. Oh, look, it held. Okay, now I like it. Now I put my order in. Okay, internal's starting to give us a little bit of a bullish signal here. Found support right in that last little node we had from yesterday. Still just chop. We are right now pushing into a bit of resistance from the overnight. And then the next resistance is going to be right about where the A period high is in this node of volume from yesterday. But as I said right when we opened this morning, if we can get above this weak reference, come back down and find support, that would be bullish for continuation higher. Getting above there, repairing it, and then pulling back in will either lead to more chop or downside continuation. Chitin says 20 acting as resistance on the way up. You're talking about the 20 on the 15-minute candle? Yeah, passing through that multiple times is more of a sign of a rotation. But there's a little bit of bullishness in the fact that it was able to poke through. Internals are pointing to more buyers stepping in. Is that the smell of FOMO? Are they getting scared? They missed their entry? Let's wait and see. Great advice, Donkey. Of course, we're not talking about you. We're talking about those short-term traders, those weak hands traders. But yeah, no reason to FOMO into a long right now. The idea being, if the 50 holds, we're going to head up and test the 20 as resistance. If we break through that, opposite end of the channel. It's a long way to go up. But you guys know me, one step at a time, right? First we get above this weak reference. Pull back down, find support in here. We're likely to get a little resistance in this node. So we get resistance in here. Then we pull back down and we start to find support in here. That is bullish. Little short squeeze, little pop here. Okay, got some low volume nodes here, only 127 contracts. Those need to backfill right here. But this is right where we'd want to find support. "77 people watching, 24 likes. Smash that like button if you want the market to trade higher." Rocket $3,200 trade to 48. Now that's a V shape, baby. I assume you mean 3,200 was your profits. Yeah, that would be a nice trade on the ES if you jumped in down here. Market's still looking for support. Haven't quite brought in enough buyers yet, but they're getting there. They're building momentum. Sure, we want it higher. Like, thank you guys for those likes. Appreciate you. Charles, don't you feel bad watching all this volatility? Just watching the market grind this far up and down and not participating? No, sir, not at all. I'm happy to just watch the chop and wait until the signal is clear. Right now, I'm leaning more bullish. It feels like they want to bring in support here at this level and start trading higher, but it's not confirmed yet. Rocket, am I looking forward to the fresh apple cider in the fall? The best ever. I don't know. Is that like a New York thing? Is apple cider the jam around here? Never been a huge cider person, but I'll try it. Love me an apple. Okay, so now let's go back and look at those ticks and see, is there still more buyers stepping in? There you go. They're starting to step in. That is a sign of support building. They're backfilling those low volume nodes. They're finding support just below it. Alpha Trader last 3 days, the A period price has gone up and then it turns around and goes way down. Need to be careful. Yeah, certainly. You know, if I was going to go long in this potential support, I would have my stop just below that half back. Because if it's going to find support here and continue higher, it should happen in this node of volume or the overnight POC right down here. Also got the opening price right there. So it's okay to get into trades. You just got to know what you're risking, how much you're going to lose. If and you wrong about your premise. Rocket loves having the volatility back. There you go. Plenty of volatility to go around. Jitten internals are all over the place. Okay, well, printing the B period here, I am starting to feel bullish. So I'm looking for the market to start one time framing higher. That would be the next signal. Yeah, I wouldn't say they're all over the place, the market internals, at least not the way I read them. They're trending higher on all three, and they're above the zero line on all three. That is a sign of more buyers than sellers. So we assume as the market is building these red candles, as it's building support, that's more buyers getting their position bigger and bigger. So once again, getting below half back to me would be where I start to get nervous, where I start to think maybe we do need to pull back down again. But right now it feels like this is just buyers building up momentum. Well, Charles, what will get you into your long trade? Well, risk reward, I could get into it now if I'm willing to risk, as long as we stay above here, staying long and accepting a loss below that level, or testing this node to the upside right here, which starts at around 49. So just call it the overnight high. So essentially, if we can get above the overnight high and come back down and find support, or even come back down here and find support, that would get me into a trade. But if we came up to there, found resistance, and started to trade back down like this, that would be shortable. Still feeling neutral. Still feeling like the market hasn't quite decided. Okay, so we just created a poor high here in the B period. We expect to have a push away from the poor high back into this support once again, building up more momentum to break out to the upside. Okay, so now the market is one time framing higher, which is bullish. So now this is the next resistance up in here that we're pushing into between 44.48, 75 and like 44.51. I am feeling bullish on the internals. But Charles, what if this is just one of those days where it trades one direction for the A and B period and then it turns around and goes the other? Well, earlier I was seeing half back as the deal or no deal level. I'm now seeing this lower end of the node here. So if this resistance pushes us back down into here, I'd want to see support in here. Hopefully Jerome bought the dip. Jimmy Jerome Powell? Well, they don't care where prices are. They buy everything. Remember, the Federal Reserve's not like trading to make profits. They're trading to support the market. Okay, we're starting to lose the ticks a little bit here on the NYSE. Is that super bearish? No, not at all. We expected to have to find some resistance here and pull back into support. So now we want to see, can this node hold? If it continues to trade lower and the ticks are trending lower, well, then we get bearish or really neutral. But we expected that resistance. Side workers says wait to go long. Nothing wrong with that. Support the market is what they call inside. Well, the Fed buying assets is not insider trading. The Fed telling their friends to buy assets. That would be. Jitten's seeing some decent sells pile up. Yeah, they got to get those ticks back above that 0. Starting to lose it on the NASDAQ as well. So that's a sign that the buyers are running out here. People are less confident each time we're pulling into this support. So that's the semi-permeable membrane concept, right? The more you poke at it, the weaker it gets. I miss the old days when as soon as you started a one time frame in the B period, you could just go long and kick up your legs. I think those days are gone forever. All right, that support is starting to break. Let's look at the ticks. No, they're okay. Buyers are still putting in a good fight here. Nope. Sorry, guys. It was early on the bullish call. Back to nooch. Back to neutral. Well, Charles, why don't you just get bearish? We got below the halfback, which means the market probably needs a little further pullback. Why not just get bearish? Well, the internals. Man, the ticks are falling apart. Passing back through the 20 again on those 15-minute candles. Further sign of rotation. Looks like the 20 moving average acted as resistance for the NQ. Let's pop over and take a look at the NQ. Okay, NQ below yesterday's range and one time framing lower, which is bearish. Value overlapping to lower, which is a sign of either rotation or further pullback. So support for the ES is going to be this node of volume here, and then this one here from before. Design knob, I think the go short one time frame lower days will be here again, however. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Meaning if the market is one time framing lower, go short with it? Okay, my guess is the internals have switched on us. Yes, they have. So now we're starting to trend down, and we're below the zero line. It's not very common that you get a engulfing bar where the B period would trade above the A period and below. So that would be kind of a woof. I don't know. I don't trust this type of market. Difficult to read. Donkey says he's not in a hurry to get short. He's not trying to catch the very end of that downward move. I agree with that. Let me just get this chart up here. So imagine shorting the 50 here, right? How quickly you'd have to take profits because it just rotated right back up. Look at that, just a single wick barely getting below, wick barely getting below. Another wick barely getting below. This would have been a good short, but you would have had to know to take profits quickly because then it pulled right back above. So shorting down here is just very tricky. So what Donkey is saying, it's better to wait and catch the up move on the way back with as good a possible entry as you can get. Still one time framing higher. Yep, on the ES, still one time framing lower on the NQ. Partha, I need that 0.5% down. Why do you need it? You don't need it. You might want it. Correct, Rob. Yeah, as long as the B period low stays above the A period low, we are still one time framing higher. Which is why I said just a second ago, the idea of it getting below there, like the market trading all the way down to here, would be very unusual. It does happen, but it's just very rare that you get an engulfing B period that's completely outside of the A period on both ends. Obviously, I mean, if you just look at the candlesticks, what does this look like to you? Rotation. Uncertainty. Still inside the previous day's range. So as volatile as it is, this is just chop. Chop with lots of volatility. Robert asks, do I use statistics to back up my trade ideas, like probabilities of something to happen? Yes and no. I mean, everything I do is thinking in probabilities. Everything I look at is based on probabilities. But whether I track them day to day and can give exact statistics, no, I don't. I just know over time from having watched how things happen, what are the most likely things to happen or not happen. And it is all based on probabilities. But those probabilities aren't exact. They're just from my experience, from having watched it happen so far. So like I just said, the odds of the B period trading below the A period low, it's just very rare. That's a very low probability thing. I can't give you an exact statistic to it, but it is very rare. Whereas, if the market were to continue to find resistance in this node, and then we print the C period, so the A and B goes one way, and then the C starts going the other, that does happen quite a bit. So that if I started to see the C period trade below the B period low, that to me would mean we're reversing and heading the other direction. But within the B period, I assume that we're just going to rotate or push higher. So there are probabilities in everything that I look at, but they're just not exact. If we get above this high again, I may stay in my long trade all day long. Yeah, you might get your chance if we can get above that high. If we can print the C period and keep the C period low above the B period low, we could trend up, get our giant V. But the more time that we spend here, the more it's feeling like rotation. So for those of you that are newer to the channel and are like, what do you mean it feels like rotation? What does that mean? Well, it just feels like the market hasn't decided yet. So when the market is rotating, when it's just kind of going up and down, you just assume it's going to keep doing it, and then you look for the breakout above it. You look for it to get above the high, come back down, find support, and then continue, or get below the low, find resistance, and then continue. But as long as it's kind of chopping around, you assume that the participants just, there's no leadership. They haven't decided yet which way they're going to take it. That's what all these overlapping candles feel like to me. Passing through the 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles over and over again. That's what that feels like. And then the ticks completely falling apart. They had an uptrend and then they lost it. And now they're just passing through that zero line over and over. That's all a sign that the market has no leadership yet. It's still unsure of where it's going to go. Should we go long? That's up to you guys, going long here. Like I said, to me, it's a matter of risk versus reward. Where do you put your stop? If I was going to go long here, my stop would be, so I'd like enter here. My stop would be here. So if you can accept this risk, if you can accept being wrong and losing this much money, then you go long. But to me, the market hasn't made a decision yet. It's still just exploring prices, trying to figure out what's going to bring in more buyers or sellers. And the NQ does look bearish. It is one time framing lower. You know, it's got a lot of resistance in here, starting to build. Right around that 15,355 level. So I was actually more bullish on going long earlier in the B period when we were grinding around up in here than I would be down here, even though this is a better entry for a long price-wise. But probability-wise, we're losing the probability we're going to keep trending the more time we spend in here. Jitten just saw a tweet that said we are in day 7 of a recession. Oh boy. That's the stonk crowd. To them, a healthy, normal pullback to the 50 daily is the end of the world. Rocket, I never buy, sell the opening price. That's interesting. I've actually had a lot of good trades where if the market trades below the open, I buy it on the way back up, back through it, and it ends up being a great trade. So I have no problem buying at the opening price. Of course, I need other signals to verify that. NQ still has room to run down to its 50. Oh, yeah. On the NDX, it's got a long way to go. It's also, its 50 is not as reliable as the ES. Well, the problem is the volatility on this is always a bit crazy. The NQ is just a lot more volatile than the ES. Okay, so we've printed the C period. Right now our POC is just like a buck off from where the overnight POC was. And we're basically just rotating in a slightly larger range than the overnight did. So as I was mentioning, the first thing to keep an eye on is the C period low. Can it stay above the B period low? C period low stays above the B, the market continues to one time frame higher. But if it trades back down below here, we might be looking at one of those B period and then reversal type of days. So now we're watching how, as we push into this, which was support that became resistance in the B period, we're now seeing, does it remain resistance here in the C period? And looking at the ticks, do they start to pull back below that zero line when we push up into here? That's a sign of sellers piling on there. Core people get scared, start selling, and others buy. Yep. That's what trading is. Everybody's got their opinion of where they think the market's going to go. And if they're long and their opinion changes to they think it's going to go down, they sell their long contracts. If they're flat, they sell new contracts. So that's the question of, is it old business or new business? All right, well, we're cutting right through that resistance. Ticks are pushing higher and trending higher. So the buyers are taking another try at it. All right, guys. Well, with that, I'm going to bid you all farewell. If you are a member of the Brigade, wait about 5-10 minutes and then go check the page for the link. I'll get that up and running as quick as I can. If you're not a member of the Brigade, there's a link in the description. You can join. It's $10 a month. And we get to keep hanging out for the rest of the trading day. If not, I look forward to seeing you all here tomorrow morning for the market open. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great rest of your day.